Silver investors best be paying attention. Gold investors too. There are big news stories today. Elon Musk issuing another warning to the United States, a silver squeeze, and major developments, this time in South Korea, that have to do with martial law. But I think the biggest story of the day is this. It is Ron and Susie's 20th wedding anniversary. Please join me in saying I don't know, what do you say? I feel like I'm asking for a compliment for myself. But anyway, very grateful that I've been married to Susie for 20 years. She is indeed one of the kindest and most loving people in the world, maybe the most kind and most loving in the world. But let's dig into what's happening right now in the silver and gold market. Let's take a look at silver. Let's go do a quick price update because we had some good movement this morning. We're going to head out here to Pimbex and let's get an update. Yesterday we were down 16 cents and right now we're up 38 cents. Okay, we'll come back on and check on that a little bit later and see what's happening in the silver and gold market. But let's go take a look at interesting developments within the silver charts. One of our fellow basement dwellers, Michael Quick, sent me this chart yesterday, guys, and we've talked about this, the wedge pattern that's forming in silver on a rather short-term basis. But the silver price will need to break out. Now, this morning, did we officially break out? We'll kind of see how the day goes, but silver has been, have you felt it, really holding steady around that $30 mark? Yeah, and speaking of you, basement dwellers, thank you for being here. It's a big deal when you're here. We appreciate you. You're important. You're intelligent. You're part of the group. Please subscribe to the channel. Give the video a thumbs up. I won't beg for anything else during this live stream, but silver has been consolidating. Now, we also have another way to look at this, and we're going to go out to X and look at this interesting chart. Now, this is rock bottom entries on X is saying it's go time for silver. And this chart here, he says, he calls for a silver squeeze setup. As you can see, this chart goes back to 2020. We have another basically wedge pattern on a long-term basis. He's saying breakdown at the apex of a 4-year triangle. Some people call these wedges, right? Some people call them triangles. Measured move target equals a 55 gold to silver ratio. At $2,500 gold, we would have $45 silver. So things are looking optimistic. I don't know if you're feeling it the way I am. I was talking with Susie this morning, and we were talking about the silver price, and she was like, "Oh, I'm so glad it's up." And I said, if we can hold out here for a while in this $30, $31 range again, and then attempt a breakout through that $35 range, I think we're in pretty good shape. We got to remember, nothing goes straight up. We have volatility, right? Today, we've got a little volatility to the upside. So we'll take it, right? Feels better to have that volatility, those big moves to the upside, but we'll also have big moves to the downside. And volatility in the end at this point is still our friend because the trend is up, up, up in the silver price. Now let's go take a look at gold and see what's going on there. I pulled up this chart, a 1-year gold chart, because I thought it showed it best. Right now, in the futures market, we're at $26.75. I'm sorry, $2,675 for gold. But gold kind of feels the same way. If you look at this chart where we are now, where we've been from about, what was this? The beginning of October, about the last 2 months, we've been in this kind of consolidation pattern, I would call it, where like the price isn't going up a lot, but it's also not going down a lot either. And look, I mean, I'm no technical analysis guru, but even on this longer term, looking at this longer term chart, doesn't it look like we also have, right, another triangle, wedge pattern, whatever you want to call it? Remember, guys, and it makes sense, right? When you look at the price that's moving along here, it's going to have to either go above, it's going to break out basically to the upside or the downside either way. And I think we know that the fundamental factors supporting both the gold and silver price are there and are real. Okay. It's looking very, very optimistic for both gold and silver. Not looking too optimistic on other fronts. Elon Musk does have a major warning for us again in something startling that he uncovered in a recent tweet that he made on X, or whatever you call it, post. Do you call them tweets still? I don't know. Anyway, and also major developments this time in South Korea. We're going to get to that. Let's go check, though, on the dollar index. And sorry, my phone is blowing up for some reason. I don't mean to be a tiny bit distracted, but we've got some downward movement in the dollar index. I want to point this out. I thought this was very interesting because, as you remember, just back on about the 22nd of November, so what was that, about 2 weeks ago, the dollar index hit 107.55. We're down 1.5 from that, which is a major move in the dollar, and that's also coincided with a move up in gold and silver, mostly gold, right? But the gold price and the silver price seem to be back on into their old pattern of reacting inversely to the dollar index. Same thing with the bond yields. They're down a bit. It's getting interesting. Now, the big one, what's the big money doing? What's the smartest guys in the room doing? The big money, right? The elitist of the financial world. Do we want to see what they're thinking is coming down the pike? Do we want to take a glimpse into what they're preparing for? Of course we do, right? And the reason why is they usually have kind of the inside track on what's happening. And guys, we've got some big changes in expectations for what the Fed is going to do at their next meeting, which will be 2 short weeks from Thursday of this week. Let's go out to the CME FedWatch tool. I'm going to update it again. But yesterday, we were at about a 60% chance of a rate cut in December, and that has shot up all the way to 74%. Only a 26% chance that there will not be a rate cut. So again, this is the big money, right? This is the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, the CME Group, right? And here we go. We have 15 days and 3 hours till we hear from our good friend, Jerome Powell. But the big money is now betting more and more that we are going to have at least a 1/4 point rate cut on December 18th. Anything larger than that is basically a 0%. So sure, there's always a chance that we could get a 0.5% rate cut on the 18th, but certainly not looking likely right now. And again, that's the big money, right? Those are that's like where they make these sophisticated derivative type bets on what the Fed is going to do. So we want to watch it, right? It's measuring what the big money traders are doing. And if we get a rate cut on December 18th, right, that can only be positive for the gold price and the silver price at this point, because with all this uncertainty, there's a lot of uncertainty in the market. Do you feel it? I feel it, right? Anybody who can tell you they have a strong grasp on what's going to be coming down the road here in the next 2-3 months is feeding you a bunch of balloon juice. Okay. There's nobody who knows. The only thing I'll say this 100%, 100% certainty is that in the next 2 to 3 months, we're going to have a lot of uncertainty. So with certainty, we can rest assured there's going to be a lot of uncertainty. Now, to a super large extent, uncertainty is good for the precious metals prices. So we'll just kind of buckle in here for the next 2 to 3 months and see what happens, right? The Trump election, the overwhelming victory that he enjoyed in the election was a big surprise, right? That was an uncertainty. And the fact that we took it on the chin as silver and gold investors was no fun. But guys, this could likely be setting us up for a massive move in the silver price and the gold price as we head into 2025. What we've gone through, the pain and suffering that you've endured over the last, 3 weeks since the election, I call it, nobody else calls it, I call it a black swan event, okay? You can yell at me, you don't have to agree with me, but the not that Trump was elected president, right? But the how smooth everything went, number one, and number two, the extent to which he won and the Republicans won, right? Across the board. I mean, if the American people spoke, all right? Okay, but that was a surprise, the extent to which it occurred. And now we've got all this stuff with Elon Musk. And don't forget, we got a big warning from Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, Kennedy, all this crazy. I mean, I don't know, right? We are heading into some very, very, the only thing, I'm going to give you my speech. The only thing that we can say for certain is that we will have a lot of uncertainty in 2025. Okay, mic drop. The S&P 500 and the NASDAQ are at record highs. Do you believe that? Right? We were already in bubbles in the general stock market. I don't know, 2 years ago, 4 years ago. Here we sit again in double bubble territory. Now, we could be in for a big crash. I'm hearing some analysts talk about like a 55% crash in the stock market, a 40% crash in the stock market. There's even speculation out there, right, that maybe the powers that be, right, tinfoil, I'm putting on my tinfoil hat, but the powers that be are setting up Trump for a big failure, right? I mean, who knows? No, and again, that's speculation. I'm not saying that I necessarily believe that or that there's any proof at all that that's the case. But we do know one thing for sure. The stock market valuations, the tech stock valuations, the S&P 500 valuations, based on any metric, based on anything, any ratio, price to sales, price to earnings. It's out of this world what's going on in the general markets right now. But wait, there's more. And a big part of this reason, I had a great conversation with a guy, Claude Beget, super successful investor from Switzerland yesterday. I mean, the valuations, the tech is just, it's crazy right now. Absolute crazy. It's almost like a Ponzi scheme because of all this index-based investing that's going on, right? Most people don't even look at it's driven these stocks up, but it's become more like a Ponzi scheme. The general market, because of these index funds and people just blindly, oh, I just put money into this mutual fund or into this ETF or whatever it is. And then they automatically buy shares without even analyzing what's being bought. And they don't even understand to begin with. It's becoming a Ponzi. It really is. But wait, there is more. Just the actual markets, right? You got to, it's called the greater fool, right? You have to find another fool to come along to buy from you what you bought at a lower price. Okay. But on top of it all, guess what? It's a Ponzi, but it's measured in this, right? It's measured in paper money, which a lot of people would also argue because it's backed by nothing is also a Ponzi. I digress. Let's look at massive week this week. Massive news week this week that will impact the price of silver and gold. And I got to give you another warning. Then I promise we'll get to the Elon Musk warning, but I'm going to give you another warning. We got a lot of the Fed boy there coming out. Hold on a second, because I got a feeling this guy's only going to be around. You know who I'm going to get? I'm going to get one of your friends. Okay. This guy will put a smile on your face. Hold on one second. Okay. Guess who we're going to hear from today? Ta-da! Can we see that? Why can't we? There we go. Yeah, your old friend, Jerome Powell. Lighting's not. There we go. Our old friend, Jerome Powell. We gotta savor him while we can, because I just have a sneaking suspicion that he's going to be gone soon. But it's not just him. They're going to roll out the clowns, right? They're going to roll out all the Fed governors this week. Let's go take a quick look, because we got big news coming through. It's only Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. We're going to have some major news breaking that could impact the price of your gold and silver. You want to stay on top of this, and I'm going to keep you on top of it. If I can get to the right page, which we will. This is from Market Watch. It's the economic calendar. We don't want that. Okay. All right, here we go, guys. So today is Tuesday. So tomorrow, the St. Louis St. Louis Fed President Alberto Musalem. Remember Boulard, the guy from St. Louis Fed? The reason we want to keep an eye on these Fed speakers is traditionally we could have massive moves. I mean, cataclysmic moves in the price of gold and silver when some of these Fed speakers would speak. And now they're in speaking all they're rolling out the clowns, the clown show. All the Fed speakers are out. So tomorrow we have the St. Louis Fed. Then we have the Richmond Fed. Okay. And then we're going to get some beige book. And then, here, big one. Tomorrow at 1:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the one and only Jerome Powell will speak. Could be market moving. And I'm going to tell you why that has changed from the situation we were in 2 or 3 months ago in just 1 second. Thursday, we got Fed President Tom Barkin. He's going to be barking away. And then Friday is the big kahuna, guys. 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, the U.S. employment, the jobs report from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. That number that and last month it was only 12,000. They're expecting 214,000 jobs to be created. And then, of course, after that, they got the Chicago Fed President Goolsbee speaking. These Fed, I think you have to have a funny name to be nominated to the Fed. Cleveland Fed, Beth Hammock, she should just stay in her hammock. And San Francisco Fed President, who seems like she talks every day, Mary Daly, will be speaking. So we're going to hear from all the Fed speakers. Why is that a big deal? I'll tell you why. Okay, because the Fed has regained some of their ability to affect the markets. Some. Okay, now this is big. This is key to understand. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, the Federal Reserve was at their peak power. Remember, this is nothing more than confidence. This is paper, backed by, the Federal Reserve note. It says note. It's a note. Okay, I could write a note, right? It's a debt instrument. It's a piece of paper. It's not this. I moved my camera, so I don't know if this is still going to work. Hold on. Come on, focus. This is so fun to look at. And it won't focus. Focus. Hocus pocus. Focus. Well, anyway, it says silver certificate at the top of it. All right. Now, the Fed absolutely had a lot more power over the gold price and the silver price 10 years ago, 20 years ago, right? The confidence was still high. We are in a new world right now, right? The world has bifurcated. You've got the BRICS countries. You have everything going on with Russia. We've got major news. We need to investigate martial law. I didn't even know what martial law really meant. I have to be honest. I had to look it up. Now I know. I'll share that with you in a little bit, but we're in a new world. The Fed, if we were measuring it on a scale of 1 to 10, we'll say 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, the Fed probably had about an 8 potency level, right? They had a lot of strength to impact the markets and the gold and silver prices. Even up to like 2 or 3 years ago, I'd say they still were at a 6 or a 7. They dropped back maybe to a 2 or 3, and now they're back up maybe to a 4 because there's so much uncertainty. There's so much going on that people are trying to grasp to something that'll give them a tangible feel as to what to expect in terms of monetary policy, in terms of where interest rates are going to go. There's so much uncertainty that's one little piece of certainty that they feel they can grasp to. It's a mistake because the Fed is absolutely losing its ability to have impact. So much going on. Okay, next up, I'm going to talk about Elon Musk. Big warning from Elon Musk. But first, let's go out and check the gold and silver price again. This was about 20 minutes ago. And come on, guys. Let's see what we got here. Okay, silver up 31 cents. Gold up $2. Hey, we'll take it, okay? Remember, we're in kind of a consolidation phase right now. If you think that the price of gold and silver will be heading higher, if you think that gold and silver are a good insurance policy or a good way to protect your wealth, you could benefit from checking out channel sponsor Pimbex, Pimbex, Pimbex.com, online bullion dealer. I'm a customer. I was a customer of theirs before they sponsored the channel. I heard about the company from you, the Basement Dweller community. I continue to get overwhelmingly positive feedback from our community about your experiences with Pembex. So if you haven't given them a shot already and you're going to buy some bullion online, just consider, well, I will never tell you what to do. Do your own homework, do your own due diligence. I can tell you my experience, and I can tell you 100% that the people from our community who've worked with Pembex have been very, very happy. You're going to find great selection, right? Ultra competitive prices, and the number one thing, a company you can trust. Now, let's talk about Elon. What did Elon Musk say that we need to pay attention to? Remember, Elon's heading up the DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. He's probably like, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit in that job. You know what I mean? A lot of easy pickings. But nonetheless, he had this to say, and it's actually quite scary, and it points out what I think is an absolute startling fact regarding where we are. Like, we are in a debt spiral. We are in a doom spiral when it comes right now to where our financial situation is in the United States. This was just from this morning. America is headed for de facto bankruptcy very fast. Okay, and he retweeted this from Wall Street Mav. Okay, the U.S. government brings in about $5 trillion per year in revenue from taxes, fees, and tariffs. The U.S. government is on pace to spend $1.4 trillion for interest payments on the $36 trillion in debt during 2025. That will be about 28% of all government revenue going to interest payments. This, guys, is shocking, because we know that right now, if we look at the U.S. debt clock, which, don't worry, we'll go on that little field trip here in 1 second, the government's spending about 20%, about 20 cents of every dollar that you pay in taxes goes just for interest, for nothing, right? You get nothing. You get nothing for it, all right? 20 cents of every dollar. And this is pointing out that next year, we're on pace to hit a level where 28 cents is going, right? The debt level is growing. The deficit is growing. And at this pace, just next year, where I'm wondering, where will we be in 3 years? Where will we be in 4 years? Okay, here's just a quick view, 150-year view of the United States debt. What does this show? U.S. national debt. Wow. Is that as a percentage of GDP? I don't know, but like any debt chart that you look at as the United States, it goes parabolic. Look at this, 35. This is probably as a percent of GDP. Debt is, yeah, I'm sure it is. We were at 35% in 2007. Look at what we've done in 17 short years. Okay, I don't know. Do you think Elon Musk can fix this? Do you think that Donald Trump can fix this? Because, guys, it is a downright, absolute, terrifying situation that we should be like totally freaked out about in this country. But we're not, right? We are. Maybe you are. How do you feel about it? I'll ask you that question. You can put it in the comments. But our fellow Americans, those same people who don't own gold and silver, they could care less about the national debt. And it is a spiral. It is a whirlpool. And these are real numbers. There's no way out. There's no way out, in my opinion, but gold and silver. Because when you get that much debt, the only thing they can do is devalue the currency. So the amount of the debt becomes effectively less by devaluing the currency. What does devaluing the currency mean? It's the same darn thing as saying having super high inflation. We know inflation is already going up. We have determined that Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve really don't want to fight inflation. They're full of it, right? We know that in, was it 1996? This is going to make you mad. In 1996, there's meeting notes from a Fed meeting or maybe it was 2006, whatever year it was. Greenspan, I think, was still the head of the Fed. They were having a meeting at the Federal Reserve, and that's when they set out this objective of 2% inflation. We're officially going to target just to steal 2% of your money every year. Think about that. Why the heck should people work for this crud, okay, and then automatically lose at minimum 2% per year? That's not what's going to make you mad. What's going to make you madder is that during that meeting, and Janet Yellen was not the head of the Fed at that point. She was like a governor, a local, I don't know where she was the governor for, Fed governor. But they said, well, and somebody said, why don't we shoot for 0%? Oh, no, we can't do that. They laughed and they said, well, because if we shoot for 2% inflation and we only inflate away the dollar at 2% per year, we can still give American people a 1% raise and they'll think they're doing good. And they all laughed, right? These fancy economists, oh, the American people are so dumb. Guess what? You're not so dumb. I'm not so dumb. We know that inflation is robbery. It is robbery, right? We know what it's like to go to the grocery store, and people are waking up. The article I read pointed out the fact the labor unions, right? We know the auto workers, the UPS drivers. These guys are like, no, you know what? If you want us to work for you and you're gonna make our money worth less, well then guess what, buttercups? We want a lot more money, and more power to them. I'm not making a pro or con union statement. Although I was, when I was in college during the summers, a member of the Steelworkers Union, Local 110 here in St. Louis. And you know what? I made a good wage and we worked hard, but that's a whole different story that we're not going to get into. Okay. Trump says that they need to release the hostages or there will be hell to pay. That's the world we're living in right now, the Israeli hostages. But let's go out. I forgot. We need to finish up with our Elon Musk warning. Elon is giving us this massive warning. And again, guys, this is why. And apparently this jumped by 50 billion or 100 billion, like instantly the other day, because the government was like, oh, we forgot to tell you, we added another 50 billion, 100 billion in debt, whatever. Right. And they're talking about giving what? Well, I think maybe it's 725 million to Ukraine. It's a mess. Everything's a mess. But what that article pointed out was here, the U.S. national debt, but the interest. Remember, we are now over. Why are people not making a bigger deal of this? We're now paying $1 trillion a year in interest on the debt. You get nothing, right, for interest. That money goes to the people that you owe the money to. We get as Americans, okay? There's our federal tax revenue, $5 trillion. We're paying $1 trillion. We're paying 20 cents, and that's going to go up to almost 30 cents on every dollar that Americans are paying in taxes are just going to interest. This is a debt. I haven't done it for a couple of weeks. This is a debt spiral. I'm going to explain to you quite simply why. So put on your learning hat. And a lot of you already know this, but the national debt is exploding. The national debt exploding, follow my yellow finger, makes the interest on the debt explode. Now over $1 trillion, like I've said 4 times already. Okay. And that guy that put the tweet out that Elon retweeted says that number is going to go to, what did he say, 1.4 trillion or 1.6 trillion next year? I mean, that's insane. What did that guy say? Hold on here. Boom. Hold on. Let me see if I can remember. Did he say that? 1.4 trillion. Okay, so that's going to go to 1.4 trillion next year. Guess where all that goes? All that interest, all that extra money, that goes into this, the deficit, okay, which is the difference between what the government brings in and what the government spends. But that's going to balloon that number. And where does that number go? The deficit feeds right into that, right? That's the source for the debt. Okay. And then what does that mean? That means this gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And when this gets bigger, interest gets bigger and bigger. The deficit continues to get bigger. Do you see the spiral? That's it right there. Woo! Down the, somebody needs to put a drain right here. Can I draw on this page? Hold on a second. You know what? Every American needs to know this is going on. Hold on here. Because this is critical. Okay, so the debt, right? There's the green line, feeds into the interest, makes the interest get bigger. The interest getting bigger makes the deficit get bigger. The deficit gets bigger, makes the national debt get bigger, which then, see that? That, my friends, is a debt spiral. Okay, I digress. It's a big deal, and we need to pay attention to it. Let's go out and let's talk about this. I thought this was very interesting. Is there a bubble in crypto right now? Seems like everybody's talking about Bitcoin, digital gold. Wonder why they call it that. You ever wonder, well, anytime you see an image of a Bitcoin, what's their logo? It's a gold coin. Think about that. But is there a bubble right now in Bitcoin and whatever? I just found this to be super interesting. You know, Michael Saylor is somebody that I'm not personally very fond of, but someone pointed this out on Reddit, the Silver Degen Club, about the $38 billion worth of Bitcoin that one company called MicroStrategy, headed by Michael Saylor, now has, says this $38 billion would have bought over 1.2 billion ounces of silver. Okay, let's just read this first. MicroStrategy, which is a publicly traded company, and wait till I tell you about this Michael Saylor and another bubble that he was involved in. Anyway, MicroStrategy acquired 15,400 tokens for an average price Bitcoin of approximately $96,000 each from November 25th through December 1st. That's why some people are saying this is like a Ponzi, because this guy, through this company, MicroStrategy, is issuing bonds. This is the way I understand it. Correct me if I'm wrong. Issuing debt on Wall Street and using the proceeds of that debt to buy Bitcoin. And people are saying that's propping the price up. You know, I don't know. Look, I'm not anti-Bitcoin. I'm not anti-crypto. I don't own any. You have to each their own. Okay, but he bought all that Bitcoin through December 1st, according to the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission filing on yesterday, Monday. The firm has purchased over $13.5 billion in Bitcoin since November 11th and now holds around $38 billion in Bitcoin. So one company, right? MicroStrategy has $38 billion worth of Bitcoin, enough to buy 1.2 billion ounces of silver. Are you following me here, basement dwellers? Right? That one company in electronic cryptocurrency holdings, 38 billion Bitcoin, that's enough to buy the entire year's output of this. Where is it? We'll pull this up from our old friend Coin Shop Chris, our new friend, right? That's enough to buy every ounce of this, every single ounce in the world that's produced this year by the silver mining companies. Think about that. Okay? Think about that. Now, one thing I want to point out about this Michael Saylor guy, who has always given me the creeps from day one. Okay? Just being honest. And there's not a lot of people who give me creeps. You definitely don't give me the creeps. But wait till you hear about this about Michael Saylor. But you don't give me the creeps. I'll repeat that. And I appreciate you being here, right? The basement dwellers, right? You're part of the tribe, right? We're part of this group of people that love to talk about gold and silver. Thank you for being here. Okay. I know a couple things about you, one of which you're a little smarter than the average bear. Right. And you're nice. So thank you. So on behalf of Susie and myself, I don't say that enough, how important you are, because this is not RonTube, it's YouTube. This is your channel. All right. Oh, Michael Saylor. He was like credited, from what I read, with kind of the catalyst that started the tech bubble bursting. His company got in trouble for accounting fraud. And that was like one of the major catalysts that kicked off the back in whatever it was, 2000, 2001. I may have that wrong. You can look it up for yourself. But from what I read, there was some little monkey business going on in the accounting of his companies. And when it was made public, that was, a lot of people say, one of the big catalysts that ignited the tech bubble burst. That's the guy who's the spokesman, the head of the Bitcoin world. Just saying. And, crypto seems to really have become popular again lately. Whatever. Oh, and here, okay. So, but here's my question. This may make you mad. This may make you frustrated like me. And I'm just kind of saying, this is not a political statement. I'm just kind of saying this how I see it. Okay. First, we're going to talk about something that the Russians said. And then we're going to talk about Donald Trump, and we're going to talk about tariffs. And we're going to talk about something that may raise your blood pressure. Okay. Oh, here. Well, Robert Kiyosaki, forgot about this. First, let's get back to Bitcoin. Robert Kiyosaki, 2 days ago, December 1st, said Bitcoin to crash. Okay. Bitcoin is stalled short of 100,000. That means Bitcoin may crash to 60K. If and when it happens, I will not sell. Bitcoin will be having a sale. I will buy more. I predict Bitcoin to settle around 250K, I guess he's saying, in 2025. At this stage of the Bitcoin process, price is not important. As many Bitcoin, blah, blah, blah. So he's saying it's going to crash. And then in the same breath, he's saying he loves it. He also loves gold and silver. Okay, here. This is from Reuters. This is what's going on in our world right now. I'm trying to get that top. There it goes. Sometimes it's hard to do that. Reuters, exclusive. Russia's VTB, that's a big company in Russia, CEO says the BRICS summit was a slap in the face for the West. Okay. We're going to read the first paragraph. A summit of the BRICS countries held in the Russian city of Kazan in October was a slap in the face for Western nations which imposed sanctions on Russia. The CEO of Russia's second largest lender, VTB, Andrei Kostin, told Reuters in an interview. 23 leaders came. Okay, think about that, guys, right? 23 of the world's leaders came to Kazan for the BRICS summit. This is a certain statement, even a slap in the face to the Americans. It is significant that there is support for Russian initiatives and a rejection of U.S. policies. Now, think about the BRICS and the BRICS gold standard and the BRICS, gold-backed currency, the BRICS unified currency that everybody was talking about, that nobody's talking. What is that? How does this impact gold and silver? Stay with me through this, because there's certain things that aren't making sense in the world. When things don't make sense, our antennas stick up. Okay. We know about over the weekend, a absolute shocking announcement from Donald J. Trump that when he becomes president, right, if the BRICS countries try to create an alternative currency, remember this word, alternative to the dollar, 4 words, whatever, however many, that he will slap 100% tariffs onto those BRICS countries. If they even talk about it, think about it. If you want to be able to, you're either with the dollar or against the dollar, blah, 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 right? Okay. Number one point, isn't that weaponization of the dollar, further weaponization, and an increase, an exacerbation, if that's the right word, for the weaponization of the dollar? Secondly, if he wasn't afraid, right, if they weren't afraid that the BRICS were really on the move, why would the only reason he would say that and make that proclamation, that extreme proclamation that leaves a lot of us shaken, the only reason he would say that is if they were afraid that something was really going on. But the unbelievable, I can't think of the right word. This blows me away, and I want to get your thoughts on this as well. If the Trump administration is so concerned about countries using an alternative to the dollar, their own BRICS currency, to trade amongst themselves, which, I don't know, quite honestly, I think they have the right to do that. Okay. Why should we shove the dollar down their throats and say, well, if China wants to trade with India, you got to use dollars? That's the side point. This next thing I'm going to share with you is absolutely rattling. Remember, right? Trump is saying you are not allowed to use alternatives to the dollar. The dollar is king. Well, then my question is, why the heck is he backing crypto? That's an alternative to the dollar. That's all we've ever heard, right? The Bitcoiners, right? All the whatevers, all these other cryptos, they all say, oh, it's an alternative to the fiat dollar. Get out of the dollar. It'll save you. Okay, well, that would be my question for Donald Trump. If on one hand, you're going to tell the BRICS countries, no, you can't even think about using crypto or using an alternative currency that you guys create yourself, your own ecosystem. Don't you even think about it. But on the other hand, right, he's saying, well, I support Bitcoin. I support, which is all we've ever heard is that these are alternatives to the dollar. So then I'll throw out another question. Okay. What if Russia and or what if China and India want to trade with each other and they want to do it with Bitcoin? You're in favor of Bitcoin, but that's outside of the US dollar. Does that make sense? I don't know, right? This is the kind of weird environment that we're moving into. Remember what we said earlier. The only thing we know for certain is that there's a lot of uncertainty in the world. And now we've got this absolutely shaking news out of South Korea. And we're going to get to that next. But first, I want to say thank you to channel sponsor First Mining Gold. They had a big news release out this morning, an update on the permit that they're working on for their spring pole project. You can check that out at their website, firstmininggold.com. And Fortuna Mining also had a big news release out this morning about share buybacks. They're buying back like millions of their shares of stock, right? I own both those stocks. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not giving investment advice. I will be honest with you and tell you that I own both of those stocks. I like both those companies. I like Dan Wilton, the CEO of First Mining Gold. I like Jorge Ganoza, the CEO of Fortuna Mining. They sponsor the channel, and that helps us to be able to get together. So thank you. And if you want to check them out, there's links to their websites in the description of the video. And for those of you who are just joining now, the biggest news story of the day is that Susie and Ron have been married for 20 years. Susie's my wonderful wife, helps out with the channel. I don't know if she's on the live stream or not, but what a wonderful thing. We're going to get now to this other really crazy news. Also, before I forget, thank you to Jake from Jake's Custom Parts for moderating, Annie Oakley, the one and only, and Big Tim, the Silvershire. And did I miss Don Howe? Thank you, Don. It's our daily Don. Don, you are very generous. Uh-oh. I appreciate it. Okay. Guys, this is crazy news. This is our world that we are living in right now, and this is breaking news, so we're going to have to learn about this one together. South Korea declares emergency martial law. This is scary, and I didn't know what martial law meant, so let's go. For those of you who may not, and I'm kind of embarrassed. I guess I knew, but I just hadn't thought about it in 40 years or something like that. But martial law is this. Martial law is the replacement of civilian government by military rule and the suspension of civilian legal processes for military powers. It basically means that the military takes over. I guess it came from that idea of the Marshall Plan after World War II. Is that right? Martial law in times of civil disorder. Martial law involves the temporary substitution of military authority for civilian rule and is usually invoked in a time of war, rebellion, or natural disaster. So what is going on in South Korea? Okay. Let's go take a look. This is scary, guys. I mean, is this not scary? Martial law? Why suddenly out of the blue is South Korea? And I got to be honest with you, I have a little job I do at night, a big little job, all right? Provides health insurance for our family. It's a little school. And I know some South Korean families that come there, and I know these little kids. And I mean, South Koreans are nice people. I digress. So I'm concerned. Actually, one of the little boys, 6 years old, I bring him these inflatable soccer balls. I'm going to tell you a quick story. Okay. There is nothing in the world like a hug from a 4-year-old, 5-year-old little boy. And I know his mom and dad, and they're there. They come in, they bring their little guy. Oh my gosh. I can't believe Jaden. I'm sorry. Cutest little boy from South Korea. Couldn't speak a word of English. Okay. He just came to the United States with his mom and dad. His mom and dad are awesome people. And this little boy would come into my office every night or once a week when he came to see me. This, I'm going to tell you, is one of the warmest things in the world. He would say, finally, he could say, "Hi, Ron." But he would, before he left to go home from school and his mom and dad were there, he would come over and he would put his arms out because he wanted to hug me. And there's nothing like a hug from a 4 or 5-year-old kid. Anyway, I'm sorry. I digress. This is actually scary news. What is going on? South Korea declares emergency martial law. We're going to learn about this together. We'll speed read. Okay. Moments ago, South Korean president. I hate all these ads. Drives me crazy. Okay. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Moments ago, South Korean President Yoon Suk Yeol declared emergency martial law, accusing the opposition party of engaging in anti-state activities. This is not a headline you see every day. No, guys, this is scary. Now, I can't read Korean. Here's the headline. South Korea's Yoon says government administration has been paralyzed because of opposition party conducts. South Korea's Yoon says through martial law, he will rebuild a free and democratic country. What? I mean, what is going on here? Because we just read that martial law was invoked during times of war, natural disaster. He vowed to eradicate pro-North Korean forces and protect the constitutional democratic order. Okay. His approval rating had dipped in recent months. That's interesting. Yoon's conservative People Power Party has been locked in an impasse with the liberal opposition Democratic Party over next year's budget. But that doesn't seem like a reason. Okay, so look, here we go. Maybe he had a 12% approval rating, 14% somewhat approve, but a disapproval rating of 62%. So we're going to have to keep a close eye on this situation, guys. And because North Korea, South Korea is a real tinderbox that nobody really talks about, right? And we already know what's going on in the Middle East. I mean, where did it go? Here, remember this from yesterday? This is what we're experiencing in the Middle East right now. I think this is one of the best political cartoons. This is me trying to understand what's going on in the Middle East, right? These are all the different countries and their leaders with who they don't like. They're pointing guns at the people they don't like. That's why, if you're anything like me, trying to understand what's really going on in the Middle East is darn near impossible, okay? And then we have Russia. Wait till you see this. Look, I'm an American. I love my country. I love the founding fathers. I have a self-waving American flag. But the fact of the matter is, from what I can discern, and because I don't see it being anything about the war really being reported on the major news networks, is that the situation in Ukraine is not going well. And Zero Hedge, wait till you see this, published this infograph. Now, this may be from the other side, but still it shows what's going on in Ukraine right now. And apparently President Biden is preparing another massive support package for the Ukrainians, which a lot of Americans don't agree with. But this is not a political show, so we won't get into that. But I'm just reporting the facts. Look at this. Watch this infograph. This is 30 seconds, and this shows what occurred in. Let me turn the volume down. That's Russian advances in Ukraine. I mean, it appears, according to this, and according to even a lot of the official reports we're getting in the West, that things are not going good for the Ukrainians in Ukraine. Look at that. Look at those advancements. And there's the territory that they held, mostly from what I understand, and I'm not an expert in this area, but that's mostly Russian-speaking territory, people that traditionally, from what I understand, actually consider themselves Russian. I know they had some votes over there, I don't know, a year and a half ago, and people voted that they wanted. But again, I'm not a political guy. I'm not an expert in that arena. All I'm saying is when you look at why the heck did South Korea declare martial law? I mean, really? That's a little scary, right? I don't even want to think about our country and what we've got coming up here in the next, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. What's going on with Russia? What's going on in the Middle East? These are guys, we are living right now through some of the most uncertain times that most any of us have ever experienced. That's an absolute fact. Okay, let's go out and check. Let's go check on the gold and silver price. Time for an update. Basement dwellers, if you're on high blood pressure medicine, now might be good time to take your medicine. This is the Pimbex magic button, and I got good news for you. You can do this yourself too. If you want to check on the gold and silver price, come to the Pimbex website. Go to that little golden triangle there. That's the magic button. And okay, we're up 33 cents. We improved. I'm telling you guys, silver is hanging tough. Let's go look at that silver chart one more time. We're going to look at the futures market now here on Yahoo Finance. And I'm going to have some new charts coming up for you soon as well. A new platform we're going to be using to look at the silver and gold price. Here's silver. Come on, Mr. Silver. And Susie and I are going to a fancy lunch today. Those of you who know that I'm very frugal, and it used to always bother me when Susie would buy a soda at lunch. But today it's a special day. We're definitely going to make sure Susie gets her soda for those of you who like to joke around. Silver up 40 cents. You know, the reason why I don't like when I take my family out, I have two 12-year-olds, and it already costs an arm and a leg to go out to eat, and then sodas at restaurants are like $3.50. What is that? It's like you spend another $14 on soft drinks. I'll be honest with you. A lot of times what I do is I'll tell my girls, like, you get a soda, maybe Susie get one, and then I'll sneak a couple sips myself, because the restaurants pay like a nickel for the soda. It's like one of their biggest profit makers. Anyway, silver's up 40 cents. Let's look at the 5-year chart. Why don't we? Look at that. Do you see what I see? I mean, we got a lot to be really grateful for with the silver market. I mean, look, we were at $20 2 years ago in silver. And, we had a nice run through the end of the year that year, but still we were at, we were at $17 2 years ago, October 2 years ago. I mean, look at this move. That's a 2-year move. Look at this. That's a 2-year. Look, I can't draw a perfectly straight line, but I can draw that line. It kind of keeps going like that. Do you see what I'm saying? That's what we call basement dweller technical analysis. Oh, I forgot the most important part. I'm going to put a arrow on top. Hey, while I got your attention, don't forget, check out Coin Shop Chris on YouTube. A lot of you already have. He is working so hard. Fastest growing silver and gold channel, Coin Shop Chris. He's a regular here on the channel. A lot of you know him, but if you haven't checked him out, go there, subscribe, leave a comment, tell him you're a basement dweller, tell him we love him, we support him, and to keep up the good work, because that guy loves gold and silver. He's like the Fred Sanford, we call him, of the junk silver community. Wow, very, very interesting developments. Okay, guys, thanks for being here. 800 of you, you're the best. I'll see you soon. Have a great day. Thank you, Don, again for the super chat. Bye-bye.